All right. You ready?
No, bear with me just a moment. Let me. Okay, so it's extermination into dead souls. Okay, how do we sound?
You sound fine. How do I sound?
Good.
Okay. So I assume
Yeah.
it'll take a dump in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to count us in and just start with the email.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
The website for now is www.6monthsbehind.com. That will be changing in the very near future.
Oh, will it?
It is, yes. We're going
Uh,
to Tumblr and Instagram.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because that
we
doesn't cost
discussed
me.
this. Yeah, I
That
remember
doesn't
now.
cost me $140 a year.
Oh, God. Is it that much?
Yes,
Oh, dude. Okay. That
I
makes
got
sense
like
now.
I got like 20 days left before I have to renew it, and I ain't renewing it, man. It's
Nah, I
it's.
wouldn't either.
I'm gonna put it on Tumblr. Then people can follow us on Instagram, and just the stories will be there. Everything will be there, and um, I'll have it done by this time next week.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yep.
Well, with that, we're going to jump into our comic books this week. We have no Infinity Comics. We have no Avengers comics. So we're starting with the X-Men, which is where we seem to spend a lot of our time these days.
Yes. And let's talk about the Avengers for a moment. Um, it's one of the books that I read off the newsstand, and I'm really enjoying Jason Aaron's work. But we're going to get Avengers number 7 next week, and it's the Avengers 1 million years BC. You remember about 2 years ago, when maybe 2.5 years ago, with Spider-Man and Deadpool, every fifth or sixth issue would be Deadpool 2099.
Yeah.
Well, Jason Aaron's got this thing where every fifth or sixth issue is Avengers 1 million BC. And it makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't.
He's telling two stories at the same time.
I understand it because it's Jason
He
Aaron.
started the first issue.
It'll be the Iliad, and in 10 years from now, it'll all make sense. But right now, it's confusing. But it's a great book, man. It really is. How we're doing the 1 million BC thing.
Okay, is it
So,
great or is it confusing?
5 out of every 6 issues are great. How about that?
Okay.
That sixth issue is confusing.
All right.
There you go. Extermination. Speaking of something else that's confusing, we have 2 villains running around. At least we think they're 2 villains. They could be heroes. Who knows? One is a young Cable who shows up at a grocery store in Passaic, New Jersey, and shoots Calvin Ranklin. Isn't he the guy that's got like all the X-Men's powers?
I have no idea.
I think he is. I think he's the guy that like can use all their powers at one time.
If that's the case, why is he in a grocery store in New Jersey?
Because he needed milk. He's buying milk, man. Please be sure to mute all your cell phones as you board the airplane. Then we cut to the mansion where Scott is whining, as he seems to do a lot, and Jean is young Scott. And of course, there's not an older Scott anymore.
Older Scott is dead.
Yes, young Scott is whining, which he does a lot these days. Jean is trying to console him, telling him it's not his fault. Then we break to all the assembled X-Men who are insisting this isn't his problem and his fault. And then they decide to split the younger X-Men up, take them to different places. Of course, again, Scott throws temper tantrum, storms out. He and Jean get in a fight with Cable, or Nathan Summers, who's revealed to be Cable at this point, a very young Cable. So now that we're all confused because Cable died last issue, but now he's back as a younger version of himself to save everything. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Then the X-Men come out. Cable's gone. We see where he's taking the X-Men and is holding them. Then Ahab shows up and transforms more of the X-Men into hounds. It's going somewhere. If it wasn't going somewhere, I'd lose my mind.
Yeah, okay. I don't think it's going anywhere because I've read it all and it's not going anywhere. But okay.
Well, of course it is, man. You know where it's going. I mean, they're
I mean, nothing is. No, nothing changes after this. Not really. I mean, something happens, but it's nothing good.
yeah, it is, man.
No, it's not.
Have you read Uncanny?
Yeah,
What are you up to on Uncanny?
I only read the first issue.
Oh, dude, no, man. You got to read that whole 10-issue arc, and then there's an Uncanny annual that's actually good. And, dude, come on.
Nah, like I know what's happening at the end of this, and it's nothing good. It's just more confusion.
It's I promise you it's good, man.
Dude, the X-Men suck. They had a short time where they were good, and now they suck again.
We agree to disagree.
At this point, I think it's time for Marvel to just jettison the X-Men and just say la vie. They can't do anything good with them anymore.
Okay. In 6 months, we'll revisit this conversation.
Okay. Let me give you some direct evidence. We have Hunt for Wolverine dead ends. you know how we read all those Wolverine stories that weren't really Wolverine stories? Well, now they're trying to thread them all together as if somehow they all make sense and are connected. So Daredevil and Tony Stark go to the X-Mansion to meet with Kitty, where there's a lot of dialogue that's supposed to make it sound like all these separate stories had something to do with one another. And it all had something to do with this entity known as Sotiera. Now, Sotiera did not get mentioned at all anywhere in those stories. This is a brand new thing that they're plopping in the middle of this right now so that all those comic books that you shouldn't have bothered reading make sense, or they're pretending that they make sense. Then a bunch of things fall out of the sky and they have to go save the planet real quick, because that makes sense. After that happens, some dude in a white coat shows up with a bunch of dead bodies and lectures the X-Men, and then a lady with no face shows up, and apparently she's Sotiera and lectures the X-Men some more, and apparently she's the one that's got Wolverine or something. Also, he's got laser claws now. I don't know. Dude, none of this makes any sense, and it's all just a grab for your money, and you shouldn't read it, and someone should kick CB Cebulski in the balls.
They're not laser claws. They're energy claws.
What's the difference?
Do you want the explanation?
Not really.
They've been warned about spoilers. I mean, I can give you the explanation if you want.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Next, we have New Mutants Dead Souls #6. Okay, maybe your point of X books being bad is playing out here, because
is this not good either? I didn't read it, but the New Mutants thing is actually pretty decent.
Well, it has, and I'm really confused because they've been doing stuff with Warlock in different books. Like,
he'll just show up for a page or two.
Oh no, dude, he's all over this book.
Is he?
So yeah, so Danielle Moonstar's there at the scene of some crime, and Warlock possesses her, and then Illyana and Magic and Karma go and start having an argument, and then Karma gets her brother there, and she's all freaked out because she and her brother were split, and now she can't have a sane mind if her brother's not in her head. And then all the New Mutants show up as Warlock versions of themselves. Then Magic and her New Mutants team fight themselves in the version of Warlocks. And then Guido shows up and dies, and then she reanimates him with the Warlock virus. And then you got the end as question mark. And they're all, I don't know, dude. It's a mess.
None of that made any sense.
No, it doesn't. That's the thing. Because Warlock has never been a virus before. He has always been his own self-contained entity, but
No,
now
he's a virus.
well, yeah,
He's the techno-organic virus.
right.
Or no,
But
is it the phalanx? I
right,
forget
but
what he is, but he's a virus infected being, and that's what makes him an X-Man.
right, but he cannot give that virus to other people. So, like on this last page, there's 1, 2, 3. Shoot, I touched the book. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 versions of Warlock. That's because he's infected everyone.
Okay, that's weird. Well, you saw that in the earlier issues where you'd get like a little epilogue with just him, as he would come in contact with someone, and all of a sudden they'd start looking like him.
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently, Karma's been manipulating him somehow. I don't know and really don't care.
I'll go back and read it and see if I can make sense of it.
You do that.
Now, the only X book that's any good anymore is X-23, with number 3. And as we saw in the last issues, the Cuckoos have kidnapped Gabby. And if you're wondering why, they reveal in this issue, as Laura spends most of the issue chasing them down. So the Cuckoos used to be 5, now they are 3. What they want to do is clone their dead sisters. They want to take the consciousness of their dead sisters and create new bodies for them. Except the clone bodies that they've been working with do not accept that very well, as we find out. So the idea is that they need a body that can stand up to something like that. And apparently Gabby makes a perfect specimen because she has a healing factor. So their intention is to graft. What? Did you say something?
Nope, didn't say a word.
Okay. Their intention is to graft the other girl's mind onto Gabby, which they do at the end of this issue, or at least we think. Maybe, perhaps. It's literally they throw the switch on the machine and that's where it ends. So we'll see what happens. But it's been the one X-Men comic that I've actually enjoyed here lately.
Okay.
I mean, X-Men Red's okay. Blue has lost me entirely because
No, this Blue's pretty good, man.
Nah, the plot doesn't make any sense.
It does.
I don't know. I feel like they were trying with the X-Men for a while, and maybe when they rehash it all into Uncanny, I'll feel differently. But Gold is weird, and Blue has lost itself, and Extermination sucks, and the Hunt for Wolverine is not what everybody wanted it to be. I don't know. I'm severely disappointed in Marvel's attempt to revive the X-Men.
Okay, if you don't want spoilers, you need to jump ahead about 90 seconds. Okay, I'm going to pause. There you go. When they finish that first story arc, that's 10 issues long and Uncanny, and they finally bring Cyclops, old Cyclops, and Wolverine back together as the only 2 members of the X-Men. It's a very good book.
And maybe it'll get there, but right now you've got the young X-Men running around doing things that don't make any sense, and you've got the other X-Men running around doing stuff that I don't care about. And
dude, it's all they are cleaning it all up to launch that Uncanny book.
Okay, then I will jump back into it when Uncanny comes out. But right now, the state of the X-Men is worse than it was.
It came in every other week, and I think I just bought issue 13 or 14. So, dude, it can't be far away.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, so I think I got issue 13 last week or 14. I don't know. What I do have is X-Men Blue number 34. Magneto and the Blue team are 19 years in the future. They're still mad at Magneto because he has created this disastrous environment.
Dystopian future.
Sure, thank you. Where there are statues to himself everywhere. And throughout this whole issue, he's contemplating his villainy, and is he just made to be a villain and can't help himself? No matter what he does, is he going to be the villain Magneto? That's the questions he's asking himself through these two issues. And when he returns to the present, he decides, yes, that's the case. Returns to a really, really cool Asteroid M that he has rebuilt with his Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which also.
Yeah, this is an attempt to bring him back to his villainous ways, which they've kind of been working towards for a little while. But everything else in the book is superficial.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about in the next What's Next. It will be part 2 of the Claremont run on X-Men. Claremont's under contract with Marvel. He's not doing anything, but he's in a contract with them. But what you're about to get in the next couple of months is a series of books called X-Men Black that were really good. And each issue features a villain as they reboot it. You get one with Emma Frost. You get one with it's Emma Frost, Juggernaut, Magneto, Apocalypse, and it seems like I'm missing one. It may have only been 4 issues, but Claremont writes them really, really good, man.
Okay, that sounds like it might be pretty good.
Yeah. X-Men Grand Design Second Genesis came out this week.
Yeah, I didn't have time to read it. Those are always really long, and I just didn't have time for it this week.
I didn't care.
Yeah, you don't like these books, and that's incorrect of you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't understand.
In the time it takes me to read this book, I can go back and read all the original issues.
I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I mean, they're trying to put together a cohesive narrative through all of that incoherent mess that is the X-Men continuity. And
okay, we argued this last issue.
Yeah, we did. So anyway, Edge of Spider-Geddon #2 came out. It was also a convoluted mess, which seems to be a theme these days. In each one of these is going to be a comic leading up to the Spider-Geddon event, and each one is going to feature a individual within the Spider-Man mythos, I suppose. We had Spider-Punk earlier. Now we have Penny Parker. The art looks pretty good. Who's doing? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But this is, and if you don't know who she is, you got a little bit of an introduction to her in Into the Spider-Verse. But if you don't know who she is, she's this kid who can control this spider robot that no one else can control. That is how they keep the world safe. But also, there's a Venom one that is around. I don't know. The story doesn't make any sense, so it's not worth your time to read. Just skip it.
Cool. Next, we have the 616 universe.
Yes, we are.
Okay, tell you what you do.
Uh-huh.
You froze up during the last stop book.
Mm-hmm.
So count us back in. We'll edit all this out and pick up the 616 universe.
Or we can just scrap it and say the hell with it.
We having a bad day?
We're not allowed to be left alone for more than 5 minutes. It's been all day.
I heard the door slam a few minutes ago.
Yeah, she stuck her head in 3 times since we've been recording.
You ready?
I don't care.
Okay. You two about done over there so we can get back to recording? Hello?
What?
Nothing. Y'all done?
What are we doing?
You were talking. I thought I heard you talking.
No, I'm going back. I'm going in later.
I'll be done in just a few minutes.
Whatever.
Okay. Oh.
Nobody understands that sound travels.
No. Did you hear them?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've heard them the whole time.
I know. I'm just, you know. Anyway.
You and I are having the exact same problem. Nobody understands that sound travels, and when you're making a ton of noise when someone's trying to do something, it's disruptive.
I know.
Yeah.
So either we're doing a podcast or we're not. If we're, we got to push through.
Okay. We're just going to count it in.
Count in.
3, 2, 1.
All right. Next, we have the Marvel 616 universe, and we have the Daredevil annual #1. First off, I don't know how it's #1 because there's been like 50 of them, but okay, whatever. There should be a legacy number there. It says 50.
Because
Secondly,
it's the new numbering.
Okay, fine. But we did away with the whole new numbering and went back to the legacy numbering. I don't care. You know what? I don't care about the book. I don't care about it's Misty. The first time Misty Knight met Matt Murdock and Daredevil like 20 years ago. And I don't care. It was just a bad book.
Yeah, it seemed out of place in a story that just didn't need to be told.
Yeah, it just, you're like, why? I don't.
And that's the case with a lot of annuals. It's just like, okay, this is the first time they met. First of all, we've seen this before, and this is not how it happened. Second, like, why? Why?
I don't know.
Just tell a cool Daredevil one-off story in the annual and be done. This ain't it.
I agree. Next, we have Deadpool Assassin #6. Now, this is written by Cullen Bunn, drawn by Mark Bagley, and this is a good book. It wraps up our series. I was wondering if they were going to kill Weasel, and they did. Yeah, Weasel's dead. He's got a piece of steel through his chest, so he's dead. Then Daredevil. Deadpool goes after Threnody, who is just, this has been a really good book, but right here, this thing kind of takes a turn because she's trying to get souls to power her dead baby, which has been dead a long time, and it's some kind of dead animated demon thing. I don't even know.
That sounds...
Yeah.
dark.
Then there's other people from the Assassin Guild coming after her, and there's this one dude's hand at Daredevil, Deadpool, call him Daredevil one more time. Deadpool keeps cutting off and the hand keeps chasing him around. It's just a mess, man. It is. But it's good. They should have finished that last issue when he was fighting the Assassin's Guild and said, okay, that's that. You know, we're going to end it right here. But they didn't.
No, they had to have the 6 issues for the trade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exiles #7. So in the last issue, they went to this weird Old West town. And this is a theme that happens in Marvel Comics sometimes, where you go back in time to an old westerny town, but there's the Marvel heroes there in old westerny ways. You know, like the Magnus Gang, which is Magneto and his Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but instead they're a bunch of banditos. And you've got Black Panther, but he's the sheriff in town. They call him the King. And, you know, Moira McTaggart's running the saloon and stuff like that. Normally, I don't like stuff like that. I hate Wild West settings to begin with. So when you start putting, you know, that like superhero spin on them, I ain't into it. This is an exception, however, because it's very well written. So, as you can imagine, they run down the Magneto's gang here, but the twist that happens is that two of his gang members are the former teammates of Blink, and not just alternate reality versions of them. They're the ones from her alternate reality, from her Exiles team, and they somehow got mixed up with him. Well, both of them die in the middle of this. Yeah, like, so she gets reunited. She's immediately reunited with her friends, and then they immediately die. Also, Valkyrie's horse dies. There's a lot of death in this comic. They defeat the Magnus gang, but at a great cost, and they don't know how they're going to get back to their time. They're all sulking in the saloon when the Watchers show up. And they're angry because she's been messing with the timeline and working with the unseen. So, yeah, typically this is something that I wouldn't, this is a setting and trope that I wouldn't be into, but because of how high the stakes were of the story, I really enjoyed it.
In that Venom book I'm going to review in a few minutes, old Nick Fury was in it, and it was really fun seeing him there. Not as the unseen, but as Nick Fury. It was cool. We'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay.
Next, we have the Jessica Jones digital book, which I didn't read. Did you read it?
I didn't. No.
Okay. Then next up, we have Marvel 2-in-1 number 9. Ben and Johnny are still trapped on this Battle World planet where Amadeus Cho has been trying to find Reed Richards and sending out communications trying to find him. Instead, he finds the Mad Thinker, who at this point is really mad because he thinks he's Reed Richards, and he thinks he is Reed Richards, and he's somehow given himself stretching powers, and he's created Fantastic Four that Johnny and Ben seem to beat up with no powers. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and then at the end they get their powers back for reasons unknown.
Well, Susan's there.
We think.
But as we've read issue 1 of Fantastic Four, we know she's not. So
right, like that's the whole thing. Is like why is this Marvel 2-in-1 still happening? The Fantastic Four's back, so who cares?
I don't know.
Yeah, you either let this Marvel 2-in-1 play out to the end, or you just cancel it when Fantastic Four comes out.
I'll let you know as I keep reading them off the newsstand.
Okay,
because they're still coming out.
Again, continuity problems.
Yes.
What is even editing? Moon Knight 198 was good, but if you haven't been reading the last couple issues, you have no idea what's happening. So Mark Spector has infiltrated this gang of lunatics for all intents and purposes, and is given these various tasks. One of which is to kill a shark, and there's another one where he meets up with Fool Killer, which is funny because Max Bemis wrote that Fool Killer comic from a couple years ago. Yeah, it's good. It's just I don't know. I don't really understand what the point of it all is. And if you remember in the last issue, it deviated away from the main story so that he could infiltrate this group of psychos or this cult or whatever, and you got no backstory or explanation as to why he's doing it. He's just having dinner with a bunch of lunatics, and then all of a sudden he's being invited into initiation trials with a cult of psychopaths.
Did you and I discuss on air or off air Max Bemis and why he left Moon Knight at issue 200?
No, but he had a mental breakdown. I know that. Well,
here's what happened is his way of dealing with the mental breakdown was writing all these issues of Moon Knight. And he dealt with his issues through writing them out in the form of Moon Knight and letting Moon Knight act him out. And finally Marvel said, dude, that's enough. You can't do this anymore. And they kind of came to a mutual understanding and went their separate ways.
Yeah. How that dude's wife has not left him, I don't understand, because that man's utterly insane.
Yes.
And like I've known that. I've followed Max Bemis's career for a long time, and dude's crazy. Dude's crazy when he's on his meds and he's level headed. When he's off the meds and in his own mind and out there, you get this insanity that is what you're seeing in Moon Knight, where I wasn't going to talk about it at the end, but he's basically tasked with killing a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Miss Marvel number 22.
Are any children killed in Miss Marvel number 22?
What?
Are any children killed in Miss Marvel number 22?
No.
Okay.
She's still running after the Shocker. She's still having trouble controlling her powers. She keeps getting really big and then shrinking down really small. Bruno runs off to the lab to try to figure out what the problem is. Miss Marvel's running after Shocker, who has an above ground lair instead of an underground lair. It's basically a treehouse. For all intents and purposes, it's a treehouse. The Shocker lives in a treehouse. Yeah, that's what's going on in Miss Marvel.
Well, it was probably better than Runaways because we've discussed.
Oh, dude, I gave up on Runaways like 5 issues ago.
Me not liking teenage books, and this is not, dude. This may as well be called Young Love and be one of those old Marvel love stories instead of anything close to a hero comic. It's just it was 22 pages of it. I about lost my mind.
Oh gosh, I can imagine that drove you up the wall.
It did, man.
Yeah, I enjoy the original Runaways. I've enjoyed the comics when they came out. I enjoyed the show, but this latest run has just been
no.
Yeah, it's not good.
No.
It's one of those things where they wanted to capture lightning in a bottle a second time, and they should have just left the Runaways where they were.
Dude, no doubt, man.
You know, that first run, that first run of comics that you did that was so good, it's all you needed. And yeah, the characters can show up in other comics or on other teams, but there was no reason or impetus to put the team back together, and you have to manufacture ways and reasons and situations for this to happen, and it just doesn't work.
It doesn't at all.
No. Venom First Host number 1 is, as you might imagine, a comic book about the first host of the Venom symbiote. So it turns out during the middle of the Kree-Skrull War, which you and I talked about earlier, the Venom symbiote was actually possessed by a Kree warrior who goes on to save a bunch of Kree refugees or whatever against some Skrulls. And this is what apparently put the imprint of good nature into the symbiote to begin with. It's why he wants to resist his evil nature. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It was all right, actually.
Well, there you go. Next, we have Web of Vietnam, as in Vietnam, and
let me guess. This is the story about those guys that were in Vietnam with those Venom symbiotes. Is that right?
Oh yeah, dude.
That had never existed before until like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Turns out Nick Fury is the one responsible for that because he caught a symbiote and decided it would be a good thing to test it on human people in the jungle because he's Nick Fury. And then to kill those people, or kill, he calls in one Wolverine and they go hunting for him in the jungle. And it was actually pretty good. You're just like, at this point, they're completely retconning all of Venom's history.
Yeah, that's the problem that I have. I don't have a problem with them exploring, here's what, was going on with the symbiotes a long time ago, or, here's things we didn't know. But they have completely rewritten the character. And what's funny is that people have eaten this stuff up. But
Yes.
when you hear the neck-bearded, wacko comic book folks on the internet talk about things like female superheroes, this is the sort of thing that they pretend to talk about, where, oh, you're changing an entire character when they're really not, like with Captain Marvel. But no, in this case, you really are.
Yes.
You're going back and changing everything about the character.
Yes.
And if you want to do that and it serves the character well and you've got something with it, I'm not opposed to it, but I don't think you're serving Venom well here. It just makes it complicated.
Right.
All they've done is complicate the character.
Right.
Because he was evil, and then he was good for a while, and that's because he went back to his home planet where there was a race of these Clintars on this planet, and they were able to purge the evil from him, and he was a guardian of the galaxy for a while, and then he went back to being evil. Oh, it turns out that there's this all that was a lie, and then there's this giant evil Venom god thing that's happening, and also people were using symbiotes in Vietnam, and it turns out the first host for the Venom symbiote was a Kree because reasons, and none of it makes any sense. None of it makes a very popular character more accessible to an audience who doesn't know as much about him. It doesn't serve the character in any way.
None whatsoever.
No.
Does Poe Dameron serve the character?
Yeah, it's fine. It's Poe Dameron Annual number 2. The story's pretty good. The art in this comic book is hot garbage. The art is actually not so bad. It's just the faces. But if you flip through this thing, man, whoever who did draw this?
I'm going to look at it.
Andrea Broccardo. She's terrible at faces and needs a new job. Anyway, Princess Leia tasks Poe Dameron and the Black Squadron with stealing some what they think is vital information from the First Order, but they're not able to. They need the First Order to not know that it was the Resistance. Because at this point, they're in this sort of like weird Cold War place where, they can't take actions against one another. So it's got to be, they're flying different ships. They've got to be stealthy and make sure that they don't know. Meanwhile, Han Solo and Chewbacca have learned that the First Order has this really interesting information that they would also like to steal because it will fetch a high price on the black market. So what happens is this convergence of Black Squadron trying to ambush the First Order and steal this information while Han Solo and Chewbacca are doing the same thing, and they have to navigate around one another. They come to odds with one another at one point, realize who each other are, and then help each other. It's actually a pretty neat little story. And the information turns out not to be. She told Black Squadron that it was like weapon plans or something. What it actually turns out to be is the entire a digitized version of the entire library of Alderaan. All of their literature, music, culture, all that in this crate here. And what she wants to do is, of course, catalog that. So, yeah, it was actually pretty good.
Good. What wasn't good was Lando Double or Nothing. Yeah, we don't care. I mean, he's just being Lando. We don't care, man. What was your favorite book this week?
X-23. Hands down.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was about the only good book this week, in my opinion. There was some real hot garbage. There was some stuff that was fine, and then there was X-23 was probably the only thing that I would have called good.
Because of the art, I'm going to go with the Extermination. I thought the art and color along with a fairly decent story, made Extermination #2 my favorite book of the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really wish Edge of Spider-Geddon #2 had been better. But the story, sometimes, like with Spider-Gwen, not having information about a particular universe serves the story when you're dropping little seeds of information and you're like, ooh, I want to know more about that. But if you're not talented enough of a writer to do that in a skillful way, it just leaves you going, I don't know what this is. I don't have enough context, and things are happening that I feel like I should care about, but I don't because I don't know what any of this is. And
Right.
it just rings hollow.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So
Yeah.
I really wish I'd liked that book more.
In the dump this week, we have an X Factor book. We got a bunch of what if books for some reason. I don't really understand.
I always like those what if books.
Other than they put them out as Timely Comics a while back. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there.
That would make sense, actually.
Yep.
All righty. Well, that'll do it this week. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
For now, you can check out the website at www.6monthsbehind.com.
And Pat, as our tradition, do you have any wisdom to share with us before we go?
I do. There's some on the screen, but I can't read it. And I can't read it because I thought it would be a good idea to take my new eyeglasses out of the box right before we started recording. So now, sitting here an hour later, my head's splitting open and I think I'm going to throw up. So don't put new glasses on right before you start having to read things.
Okay. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.